Hi, everybody. Special Thanksgiving episode here from Leading Edge Financial Planning. Kevin Gormley here again with Andy Christopher. Today we're going to be talking about the LOA. What does that stand for? Letter of Agreement, Andy?
Correct. That's it.
Yeah. On the new cash balance pension plan, RHA, HRA, spill situation. So Andy, we've taken a look at the documents that have come out. We think we understand the plan pretty well. We've heard some scuttlebutt, I'll call it. I don't know what other words you could use, but we've heard some negativity around the plan. We've heard some positivity around the plan. We're really not sure,
Yeah.
how this video might be received, but please give us feedback in the comment section. If there's anything we say that you think is incorrect or hooks an emotional response in you, just please, don't be too mean or too dirty in your language in the comment section. But Andy, let's start out by just talking about the plan itself or the LOA itself.
Yeah. Yep. So I guess the early Christmas gift from United and the union is the negotiation of this LOA 24 Tech 05. And that really is just, hey, how are we gonna we had the contract UPA 23, we had this CBA, which stipulated a market-based cash balance plan. And now this is the first step towards that implementation. And so I think, Kevin, our goal today is again, I think there's a lot of emotion around this. There's a lot of folks who feel strongly about whether this is good for them. The voting is open now through December 12th, and our objective here is just to provide you with some ammunition and maybe a way to think about this as you decide if this is good or bad for you from a way forward. But I think
Yeah, Andy, let me jump in for a second.
you
So
got
yeah,
it.
we're not going to say which way to vote. And just as far as disclosures go, we work with some United pilots, and we don't represent the union, United, anything like that. The only disclosure we have really is we work with United pilots, and we really want to do what's best for our clients. And we will not manage the cash balance pension plan. We do not manage the RHA, HRA. So as far as that goes, there's really very little bias from that angle. So please go
Yeah.
ahead, Andy.
Yeah. Let me just share my screen. I'll get the pen going. Okay. So I think, where do we start? I think is a good place to frame this discussion. And I bring this up, Kevin, because there
Mhm.
may be some negative opinions attached to this LOA, but that may be because we've had negative opinions about the implementation of this cash balance plan from the very beginning. And so,
Yes.
unfortunately, hopefully you voted with your conscience on UPA 23, and but that got approved, right? And so, if you're unhappy with this cash balance plan because you're unhappy with the cash balance plan, like we're probably not ever gonna solve that problem for you until we renegotiate the contract. But so I think the way to frame this is how well does this agreement between United and the pilots adhere to the what was stipulated in UPA 23 and the CBA. And then I think when we frame it that way, we have a good baseline of like, is still always, is this good for me? But is it deviating more from what we agreed to as a company and as a negotiating party?
Yeah, Andy.
So
So everybody's favorite radio station is WIFM. What's in it for me?
yeah,
WIFFM. What's in it for me? So we do ultimately want to get to what we think is
yeah.
in it for different people.
That's exactly right. So let's just talk, where were we 2024 as a level set? So any excess United contribution, remember that's the 17% NEC that was due to this, what's called the 415C limit. But really what that means is prior to hitting, or once you've hit 70,000, I'm using 2025 numbers, 69,000 on 2024 numbers, into your PRAP, any excess United contribution was going to go into the AHRA health reimbursement account or RHA retiree health account. And then once you hit $345,000 of income, that's this 401A 17 limit, the first 10,000 would go into the AHRA RHA, and the remaining was going to come to you as taxable income. So that's what
Still,
came out as 2024 out of the, and that's where we've been operating under at least this year. And then what was agreed to in the contract? What was agreed to in the contract was the implementation of this market-based cash balance plan. Heretofore referred to as the cash balance plan, as that was a stipulation in the LOA.
mhm.
So you would get an annual election between the AHRA, RHA, and the cash balance plan. That's important because we don't have that right now, and this LOA is not solving that. So I think there's a huge talking point there. All excess 4015C and 401A17. So any excess that couldn't go into the PRAP would go into one of these two based upon what you had elected. And this was not going to be limited by a certain level, which we see it is in the LOA. So another big distinction that's, I think, worth talking about. And then in-service withdrawal, at least annually when you turn 59 and a half. That's not changing. The LOA is still providing that as an available option. So that's what was agreed to. And so now the question is, does this LOA, does it do a good job of adhering to this, the structure of this, and again, is this good for me? So, anything I missed, Kevin, on that?
Well, yeah, I would just add that, once again, the contract gave you choice about where the spill or the extra
Yeah,
money would go, and now the LOA is a little bit different than that. And one of the unknowns that we have is, does the LOA mean that you won't have choice with the RHA, HRA versus the cash balance pension plan going forward?
yeah,
We're just not sure, Andy. We don't think that it overrides the ability in the future to make that choice, but we don't know for sure.
yeah. I think the way I think about that is this foreshadowing a little bit here. This 46,500 limit that we're hearing about, um, that I think is going to get locked in. But again, we're not sure. That would be a new negotiation depending on how the IRS, approves with the private letter ruling. And then we're definitely waiting on IRS approval for the election of the AHRA and RHA. That's my understanding of kind of where we're at with this LOA and the cash balance plan. But a lot more
Yeah,
questions than answers, I think.
yeah. Final comment is I work part-time as a tax person, and the IRS is slow. So part of when I read the LOA, Andy, I said, well, looks like United is trying to be proactive here and get the process started because the IRS is so darn slow.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would say probably some good faith efforts on both sides here to just get that ball rolling downhill. Okay, and now where are we at? So we have the LOA that came out, I think last week, and kind of a like, hey, it probably felt a little rushed. Again, now voting is open. You have until December 10th to make that vote on whether you are approved or not. The rush here is Schwab, who is the administrator of the PRAP, says, hey, even though this LOA and the cash balance plan is not going to go in effect until July 1st of 2025, we've got to start implementing this on January 1st of 2025. So we need to know what's going on here. And so that's where you're seeing this accelerated timeline, is it's really a Schwab kind of driven. Any administrator would have this problem, but Schwab is the administrator with Schwab driven problem, if you will. Okay, so what are the big changes here? So you've probably heard about this 46,500 limit from United into the PRAP. So where is that number coming from? Well, let's use 2025 numbers. And so the most, the most we can get into the PRAP is $70,000 in 2025. We're not including catch-up contributions, pardon me, for those who are age 50 and older. So this is the 70,000. A pilot can add 23,500 as a deferral amount in excluding after-tax contributions. And so 70,000 minus 23,500 equals 46,500. And so United came back and said, hey, if we're going to implement this, we're going to limit our contributions to the PRAP, regardless of that $70,000 limit, to $46,500. they did that because of what's called the contingent benefit rule. In other words, anything that United can't contribute to the PRAP is going to go into the cash balance plan once the cash balance plan is implemented. Well, you could have two pilots who make the exact same amount of money. One could make contributions to the PRAP and one could not. And that would influence how much money is going into the cash balance plan. And because of that, your amount into one retirement plan is contingent upon taking some other action, which apparently is a no-no in IRS land. If you listen to the United podcast they put out, their compensation committee, the folks who are on at the negotiating table with United, that I would think their perspective is that United is being a little overly conservative with this limit. I will tell you, who does this impact, right? Back to like, hey, what's in it for me? It's only those who make over 273,000 and some change. So think 46,500, the 17%, right? To get you to 46,500 is about 273,000 and some change. So those who make over 273 and don't maximize their 23,500 deferral limit. So if neither of those apply to you, then this may not be as big of a deal from your perspective. Okay, what else has changed? As we kind of alluded to earlier, it's unclear on AHRA, RHA contribution options in the future. In other words, back to what did the contract say was going to happen? We were going to get to elect once a year. Where that goes, it's not clear what that's going to look like. This LOA obviously doesn't provide that option. Everything is going into the cash balance plan. So because of that, we have this triple tax benefit of the AHRA, RHA. We have a whole other video I think we can link to, Kevin, that goes into the pros and cons of of the AHRA, RHA. But the not to be discounted is how is that triple tax benefit, how beneficial that can be to someone. And again, this is waiting on IRS approval that we may not see. All right. And so that could be a limitation going forward. Okay. Some other minor items, RHA sweep has been suspended because because we were concerned that we weren't going to have AHRA contributions or significant AHR contributions for a period of time. That sweep feature has been suspended to preserve those who use the AHRA for insurance premiums and medical expenses currently. But that means it's going to be pretty conservatively invested, right, in a money market type account for at least some period of time. And then vacation forfeiture. Previous elections have been suspended, and future in 2025 vacation forfeiture elections are going to be now capped at this 46,500 limit to go into the PRAP. Anything else beyond that's going to spill as capped. So 21 days is the max you can do. So that could represent a serious limitation for folks who rely on that to make some of their bigger contributions to the PRAP. Okay. Anything to add on that, Kevin?
No, I think money can still go into the HRA if I'm not mistaken, but it has to be the pilot and it has to be after tax contributions. So, but what you said above is all correct.
Correct. We can still get money into the AHRA, RHA. That is still going to be part of the non-elective contribution, and it's going to be very challenging to get that in there in 2025.
Yes.
So speaking of 2025, what's going to happen as we implement this LOA again? 7/1 is when the cash balance plan comes into force. So before the implementation, any non-elective contribution over 46,500 is going to come back to you as taxable cash. And all that's going to come back to you as taxable cash. Meaning if you make over 273,000 prior to July 1st, you're going to have taxable cash coming to you. And then on 7/1, that's going to transition over into the cash balance plan. Under 46,500 in United contributions prior to the cash balance plan implementation, if you have met that 415C limit, so the 70,000, it's going to spill into the AHRA, RHA. So the only way to do that is you have to make after-tax contributions, right? Because 46,500 plus the deferral amount, 23,500 equals 70,000. So you've got to push via after-tax contributions to get AHRA. Challenging to do. I think you got to make some big contributions. But I should say, with profit sharing, if we get some decent profit sharing, it's certainly not impossible. Okay, so I think that's where we're at right now. Again, I think if you're thinking about this, how does this impact me? If this is good or bad, the two things that jump right out to me are against the 46,500 limit. I'd say, if you're thinking of reasons why you would vote, maybe no, right? It would be, should I hold out for an IRS private letter ruling that says no, United, you can make bigger contributions, larger contributions into the PRAP, not limited to this contingent benefit rule. So that would be a reason. And then another reason may be, hey, I want to see how this AHRA RHA thing is gonna play out for me. I also want to see how that's going to get approved, and I'd like to make those elections, right? Because if you're someone who really likes to fund that AHRA RHA, the current arrangement is how you do that right now. In other words, how we've been operating under 2020, 2024. So if you're someone who is kind of in that period where you want to start socking a lot of money into that AHRA, this LOA makes that more challenging. Look at some examples, Kevin. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I think let's look at some comparisons here between 2025 if we don't have a cash balance plan versus 2025 with LOA 24-X05. So this is really taking what's happening in 2024 and push this would be if we don't approve it, right? So let's look at a senior wide body captain, doesn't make any contributions, 85 hours, so 465. This is your 777, top of the pay scale in the January 2025. So
Mhm.
you can see without a cash balance plan, they're not limited to the 46,500. So you're getting 59,500 in the PRAP. That's the 401A17 limit, so limited to 350,000 of income. You're still getting $1 per flight hour, and you can see you get that first 10,000 goes into the HRA RHA, and now you have spill cash of 11,131. Okay, so this is what happens if you're a wide body senior captain. With the LOA 24-X05, again, you make zero contributions. Now you can see, hey, we're limited to the 46,500. We're not getting anything into the HRA, RHM, we have to make after-tax contributions for this. You can see we're not getting any spill cash, so this is all happening here at 34,131 into the cash balance plan, meaning we're hitting that 46,500 limit into July when that spills is dropping off. Okay, what jumps out to you here, Kevin?
Well, the big thing is that in the first case, you're getting shy of 70,000, I think,
Yeah,
into those two plans. The rest is coming back in cash. Whereas in the second, you're getting almost 80,000, if my quick math
yeah,
is correct. So you're getting a lot more money into different accounts.
yes, yep. I think that's exactly right. So again, if you like HRA, this might not this new LOA may not be kind of for you, but think about it, you are paying less in taxes, right? You're going to pay less in taxes here, right? Because you're going to have about 11,000 spill tax. All
Yeah.
right, let's jump forward here. Let's look at you make a 10% contribution, right? We're still getting the 46,500 pre cash balance plan. You're maxing out. This is going to be our super catch up. So really it's someone 60 to 63 here is really what we're looking at. That's a new
Mm.
feature this year. So you're putting 11,250 plus the 23,500 that you're getting there. So you're getting 81,250 into the PRAP. You're getting almost 25,000 into the HRA, and now you have 44,000 to spill cash, right? So this is what's happening here if 2024 extended forward. With this letter of agreement, you're still getting 81,250, so that's no change there. HRA is the $1 per flight hour. You're getting $10,000 of spill cash. This means you made over 274,000 prior to July 1st, so you've maxed out that contribution. And now you get just shy of $57,000 into the cash balance plan. So that's just, I think that's helpful. I mean, hopefully you can see like here's what's happening here is if you're that senior captain, again, it's where do you want things where do you want things to go, right? And where do you want your cash, that 17% NEC to go? HRA, well, there's a trade-off there. It's called spill cash. Or is it, the cash balance plan?
Yeah, what's interesting to me, Andy, in our conversations with pilots, it seems like they say that the older captains, they want
Yeah,
to vote yes, and
that's right.
this might be the rationale why an older captain, older than 50, who's making good
Yes.
money, might want to vote yes. You could see 100 and I don't know, 40,000 maybe going
Yeah.
into retirement plans, somewhere around there, 130 something.
Yeah.
So yeah, wow, that's a lot of money.
Or if you're a senior captain, you're a 37% marginal tax bracket, and you're getting another 44K of taxable income, that can hurt,
Oof.
whereas you can shield that. And then if you're 59 and a half, this can come straight back over to the PRAP, right?
Yep.
And so there's really
Yep.
not a lot of love lost here. And if you're, again, senior captain and you've got a good opportunity to really build your HRA, you may not feel strongly about that. So I could see how a senior captain could look at this and say, this looks pretty good. By the way, in 2026, all this is over here, right, into the cash balance plan. So getting a lot of money that's deferred.
Yep.
Should we look at some of our younger? Actually, got one more captain to show you here. This is a 10% pre-tax and after tax. You're putting 20% away here, and really the thing to look at here is without this cash balance plan, you're getting $40,000 into the HRA RHA, right? So you're pushing a lot of money here into the HRA plus the 10,000. So you get a lot of HRA. If you really like HRA, the only way to do that is with after-tax contributions, right? Because you've got to fill this bucket up here prior to United making $46,500 in contributions and prior to July 1st of 2025, you can see you get about $10,000 into the HRA. You still have that $10,000 of spill cash and 56,000 into the cash balance plan. So again, just a foot stomp of it's really, really hard, I think, to get money into more challenging to get money into the HRA, RHA.
Yeah, I think that one's pretty straightforward. Let's move on to the next one, Andy.
All right. Year five, 737 FO. You don't make any contributions. Let's just say 85 hours and $227 an hour. So you can see really not a lot of change here, right? Because we're
Yep.
not meeting the 46,500, meaning we're making less than $273,000. So all of our NEC is just going into the PRAP. So if this is you, you're kind of indifferent, although you should be looking forward to when this is not you, right? And then you upgrade to captain, and you obviously move up the pay scale as you go every year down the line. But really, no change here. Where it gets different, I would say, is you make that 10% contribution. So without the cash balance plan, it's again 70,000 because you can put 23.5 in. Company puts 46,000. 500 in. I bumped up the hours to 120 to get us above that 273 threshold.
Hmm.
And you're getting about 10,000 into the HRA. 90/70. You can see with the LOA, that's all going to go into a cash balance plan. So maybe this is a good time to pause here and just talk cash balance plan. If you're a young FO in your 30s, young 40s, you have until 59 and a half where you can get money out of there. And how is that cash balance plan being invested? Well, it's going to be in this conservative, 30% stock, 70% bond allocation because the company's on the hook here, right? They've got to make sure any funding shortfalls they make up. And so they're going to conservatively invest that. So I could see how a young individual is like, man, I'm getting this money into this cash balance plan that it's not really invested the way I would want to invest it as a young individual who's maybe more aggressive. And I can totally commiserate with that, right? As a good thought process. I will say this, the cash balance plan, I think about that like a put option, right? in other words, the company's on the hook for any shortfall. And so you get this bond-like allocation in your portfolio that really can't go below your contributions, because the company's going to have to make up that shortfall. So you've got to, from a bond-like allocation, especially as you get closer to retirement. If I was thinking about my asset allocation or our clients and like how do we want to allocate, I would definitely look at the cash balance plan and I'd make that like a bond portion of the portfolio and then allocate maybe differently elsewhere. But I think that's something worth mentioning about how is that cash balance plan invested.
Yeah, Andy, as a white-haired guy who's older and seen a lot of different markets, I do think we have some recency bias here where,
Yeah,
stocks have just killed it the last 14 years. And
yeah,
so, I can see a lot of younger people saying, look, I don't want any money in bonds. Um, it's true. I mean, there's nothing I can say that makes that untrue, but
yeah,
I think the issue is if you want to own any bonds in your total portfolio, you can use this is my bond portion of my portfolio, my, safer money. And I think that's the way I would look at it. Again, if you're a very young pilot and you really don't want any money in the cash balance pension, I get it.
yep,
As you get older and make more money, eventually, as you said, the new contract says you're going to put money in there,
right.
um, and so just have 100% in your PRAP, 100% equities in your PRAP as you get older, and this is part of your compensation. And again, it's not the worst thing in the world. There's a lot worse things than putting money in a cash balance pension plan, in my opinion.
Sure. Yeah, completely agree. Okay. Last scenario. This is the FO. You put 10% pre-tax after tax. Not a huge call out here, except that 2024, without the LOA approval, you can sock a lot of money into the HRA, AHRA. You can see otherwise that's going to go into the cash balance plan. But again, for someone who's not a wide back captain, I won't say low earner, because you're still a fairly well compensated individual, all things being equal. Um, you're even with a 20% contribution, you're just not able to get money into that HRA, RHA. Profit sharing contributions notwithstanding, that would certainly be a factor to consider.
Yeah, so that money going in the cash balance pension, again, it will lower your current tax. That money is tax deferred, and
Yes.
you can mess around a little bit. I don't know, mess around is a good financial term, but you can put more money into even the Roth PRAP, and you can mix and match there a little bit, Andy. But
Yeah.
the amount there is $93,000 going into
Hmm.
a retirement plan. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And just keep in mind that 10% after-tax contribution. Make sure you've got your auto Roth conversion feature toggled on in Schwab so that thing's automatically going over into the Roth, or the mega backdoor as we call that.
Great point. Great point. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, I think let's wrap it up. I think what have we talked about so far? We've talked a lot about this, but what are some things to think about? Again, the biggest downside, it's that 46,500, the limit to the NEC. Again, this is the real number here. 270, these are 2025 numbers, 273, 529, and you don't max out your PRAP. That's who this negatively impacts for all of our clients we talk to. I mean, I think for most of ours who make, that kind of money, they're doing that, right? They're maxing out the PRAP, but certainly something to keep in mind. And do you want to hold out for an IRS favorable determination that we can do more than 46,500?
Yeah, Andy, if I can jump in here, I mean,
Sure.
that's really our big question is does this LOA lock in that
Yeah.
46,500? I don't think we know.
Yeah,
I
we
don't
don't.
think we know for sure. We think either way, it's probably going to have to be the number because of the cash balance pension plan, but we just don't know.
Yep. I think that's totally right. And then, we talked about AHRA, RHA, and vacation forfeiture, right? Those funding mechanisms. Do you want to put more money into HRA, RHA? Then certainly voting no would help you do that while you wait for an actual favorable IRS determination that says, yes, you can elect more. Again, triple tax benefits, that's a huge advantage. And then,
Although if you and your spouse
yeah, that's
both
right.
pass away, then it goes back to the pool. But go
That's
ahead.
right. Yeah, into the Viva. Yep. So that's again, I think we've got a video that we can link to. And then I'd say I just threw out there, I don't think it's a huge consideration if you think this is the first half of the year, right? If you're like, I'd rather just have this thing start in 2026. Maybe you wait. Yeah, the people that impacts are those who make between 273 and 408 prior to 7/1. So pretty small subset. And then I still think you're better off with the cash balance plan because you're not getting that spill tax that you are under the 2024 in non-LOA
Yeah, first world problem there.
arrangement.
First world problem for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Um, so I think we kind of wrapped it up. You've got till got a few days over some turkey and stuffing to think about this before you vote. But again, as Kevin said, we'd love to get some feedback. We'll certainly want to get your perspective. We're happy to run through your individual situation and numbers and how you're thinking about it. Again, everyone's situation is different. You military, you're going to have TRICARE and retirement. HRA is frankly not as big a deal for you. So a lot of different personal factors at play here for whether you vote yes or no, and it's complex. This is took us a while to just wrap our heads around it. So it's a complex topic with some pretty big implications.
Yeah, Andy, we built a calculator. Actually, I had nothing to do with it. You built the calculator. So if anyone wants to see what it looks like, first half of the year with the HRA,
Yep.
HRA, and the second half of the year with cash balance pension. And again, the other thing is that the contract was signed. Um, and how much does this change that original contract?
Right.
There's a couple things that we're uncertain about, but eventually money's going to go into that cash balance pension. That was signed in with the contract. Final thing around the cash balance pension is, you know, really, if you try to put more money than you are allowed in the company retirement plan, the PRAP, you can't do it. It's got to go somewhere else if you're going to continue to save more. And RHA and the cash balance pension plan, those are, I'll call them necessary evils. I still think they're
Yeah.
great, but
Yeah.
those are items that allow you to be able to save more. And if you don't want to save more, I guess spilling cash is taxable, but you could do something else with it. So,
Yeah.
a lot of complexity here, unfortunately. Andy, any final comments around how to even make the decision if this is good for you or bad for you?
No, I think it's just exactly what you said, Kevin. Is this better or worse than what was agreed to in the contract? And then how does this fit into your personal investing, saving situation?
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We look forward to some feedback. Thank you so much.
All righty. Thanks, everybody.